stand up and say, we know what we're responsible for? Can we stand up with pride, or we are walking we are walking with our heads lowered because of what other men are doing in our name? We know ukuthi generally a young person has, we carry a stigma samadoda wonke. Yabona indoda eyodwa idlwengela umntwana eLimpopo. We carry that stigma, all of us. Now, when it is reported in the media, normally, even if it might be said, one man in Limpopo or one man in Amber, all men are clustered again. That is why slogans like men are trash. Now, the more you listen to these things and you are not interacting with them, it is like something is being, you are led to believe about yourself that which is not true. That is why men should be in a position to choose their label. To choose their label. Who are we? What are we doing in this? How can we participate, and how are we participating? But even before we get there, there are things that need to be dealt with. So as I was thinking, I thought it important that we have a discussion. So it is not going to be a lecture. Everybody is going to be involved. If you look at things that we are going to be dealing with here, first one is the impact of men on society. And then numbers don't lie. Statistics, numbers don't lie. 2 and 2 is 4. Now, if something can be mediated through numbers, that thing, it is objective. I believe that there is something that men need to hear and discuss and have insight about. I believe that when we understand why we should do something, it's much more likely that we are going to organize ourselves into a positive force. The impact of men on society, numbers don't lie. I took an excerpt from a psychology magazine. It's called Psychology Today. I wanted something that was very neutral, so nobody can fault me by saying good no. When Zushumaela, no, I'm not preaching, so I took it from a psychology magazine. And it alleges about fatherlessness or children that are raised without their fathers. This is what it alleges. Maybe it's not an allegation because they have made a research. It says 71% of high school dropouts are fatherless. Two, fatherless children have more trouble academically, scoring poorly on tests of reading, mathematics, and thinking skills. So when children are growing without fathers, this is the likelihood. 3, delinquency and youth crime, including violent crime. 85% of youth in prisons have an absent father. Fatherless children are more likely to offend and go to jail. Next point is promiscuity and teen pregnancy. Fatherless children are more likely to experience problems with sexual health, including the likelihood of sexual intercourse before the age of 16, foregoing contraceptives and becoming pregnant. Now, these are girls. The next bullet is girls manifest an object hunger for males, and in experiencing the emotional loss of their fathers, egocentrically as a rejection of them, become susceptible to exploitation. We'll go back to these points one by one. A recent study shows that preschoolers, where are we? Yes. A recent study shows that preschoolers not living with their biological parents are likely to be exposed to sexual abuse. It's 40% of them. Now let's go back. If 71% of high school dropouts are fatherless, this tells us, what does it tell us? Now we must make these numbers talk. 71% of high school dropouts are fatherless. It means the presence of a father or a male figure or a father figure is that critical. It talks about the importance of fathers. You see, we have had messages that are derogatory because of what other men have done in our names. But I believe that there are messages that men haven't heard yet. We haven't really heard messages that say that's how much necessary we are. 71% of high school dropouts are fatherless. It means your presence at home. You bring down the numbers by your mere presence positively. Now, it tells us how important fathers are. So that you don't go about internalizing slogans like men are trash. Your presence, this is objective because research has been done. Presence of fathers makes a lot of difference. It means the more we are not with our children, the more silahla abantwana bethu ne, is we are exposing them to the possibility. We increase the possibility of them dropping out of school. You understand that? If we are not there positively, we increase this. Teachers would know that. This one I was not really aware of, that they have more trouble academically, scoring poorly on tests of reading, mathematics, and thinking skills, simply by the absence of a father. It tells us how critical we are to the development of a child. We cannot look at this and walk away. We've got to be able to say, as we read this, there should be a resolve that when I abandon my children, I'm increasing their likelihood to this. You are postponing a problem when you do this. You are preparing a child for possible truancy, crime, and ultimately in jail. I have worked for 9 years at a reformatory. So I worked with the children that were loggerheads with the law when they were very, 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 very small. When you listen to their stories, when you read their files, this is very true. The absence of a father, positive presence, is very important. But the absence of a father increases all the chances of being negative in life. It's very important. 3, delinquency and youth crime, including violent crime. You just go to prison and find out. I mean, those who are coming, who are working in prisons. I've worked in prison with prisons for about 14 and a half years. You see, at a reform school, I was working with boys. But with prisons, I was working with their fathers and their brothers. You find this to be very true. You ask, where is your father? The father is nowhere to be found. Many boys have been raised by their mothers, single parents. Now, psychology, this is an objective research. This report says delinquency and youth crime, including violent crimes, 85% of youth in prison have absent fathers. That's almost a similar thing even with American prisons. The last time I checked, it was 75% of all young men that are in prisons are fatherless. What does it tell us? It does not tell us that we are bad. It tells us how much we are needed. It tells us how critical we are to the fabric of family and thus of society. It tells us that when we cop out, society, there's a deterioration in society. Because a dropout from high school, not ready for work, not ready for school, most probably that boy is going to end up in the hands of other peers who are going to influence them differently. Now, promiscuity and teenage pregnancy. Fatherless children are more likely to experience problems, sexual health, including likelihood of sexual intercourse before the age of 16, foregoing contraceptives and becoming teen parents. I can agree with that. I've worked with boys. I've seen their files. I've seen why they were in a reform school. They were in reformatory simply because they were too young to be in the actual prison. But when you check all of these things, just switch it off, please. When you check all these things, the absence of a father plays a very critical role. We were promiscuity, teen pregnancy. Now, this would mean, let's put it this way. I've heard it being said that if you're a father, you choose who your daughter is going to marry. In other words, because you're a daughter, you are the first male that she gets acquainted with. If she can live with you, regardless of how misbehaving you are, you are getting that girl ready to throw herself onto somebody who acts just like you do. Now, if you are abusive and she learns how to live with you despite that you're abusive, she's likely to be drawn to somebody that is abusive because that's all she knows. Actually, she will never be able to handle. She might not be able to handle umuntu ongekho abusive. Khona amantombazana angakuyekela nje ukuthi ngoba awashayi. Because there has been a misinterpretation. They might say no, but we have come across that. So in one way or another, you choose who your daughter is going to hook up with. Let's ask this question. We are saying ukuthi indodakazi yakho ishada nomuntu ofana nawe. It's that, would you like your daughter to get married to somebody like you? And now this is too close to home. Now this is too close. And most probably abaning bit, but whoa, no, I wouldn't. But we prepare our daughters. We prepare them. We prepare who they are going to get attracted to in many ways. We do. But your absence, this report says, the absence of a father, it hits a girl child very much negatively. Uzlahlela ebafaneni galula, simply because I crave that space sigababa. Now this is true. This is true. At this point, that's where you find amantombazana aziwa abafana emalokishini ukuthi bathi kibokena mbohli. We ask God, when you just want quick sex, you can go to this one, this one, this one. Nasemsebenzini, nasesikolweni besazi ukuthi lo ube nama boyfriend amaningi bonke bayamround, sesiyazi ukuthi lo unjani. But this report says the possibility is we victim of an absent father. And now other men are taking advantage of other men's Yes. Or other men's problems and omissions. In other words, when you omit being a father, when you omit that, when you omit fathering your girl, you are likely to be exposing her to this one. Amantombazana awazlahleli bafaneni simply because they want sex. Abafana abayemantombazaneni because they want sex. That's why we would say to girls, you must be very careful. A whole lot of boys, nobody, I love you. It's a polite way of saying, I want to have sex with you. Not always, but many times. But many vulnerable young girls are because of the absence of a father. Somebody that would say, my girl, you look good, you look beautiful, you are. So the first man who will tell her, you look good, you are beautiful, takes her. So this is very, very, very important. Why am I reading these things? I'm trying to bring a message to us, Eti. That's how important we are. We are critical to the fabric of family. We are critical to the fabric of society. We are critical. You see, when men bail out, this is what happens. When we bail out, this is what happens. Now, this is a research, is very objective. Now, we come against, all right. Let's get to this point. When you can check, if you can check how many school-going girls have been pregnant this year or last year. I don't have the data, but there's so many. There are so many. I asked my wife at some stage, I said, please just do me this research. I said, in your school, how many kids have both parents? It was about a quarter. In one class, it was about a quarter. It was about a quarter. So 75% of those kids didn't have both parents. And it goes without saying that the parent they have is the mother. Now, when you are absent, you're setting up your child to all these things. But that's not the tone I want to take. The tone I want to take is your presence reduces these things drastically. Your presence, your positive presence, it reduces all these things. Girls manifest object hunger for females and experiencing the emotional loss of their fathers egocentrically. You know, they take it personally. They feel rejected by men. That's why any man that comes along, I believe that's why, all right, I must be very careful how I say this. Girls at this level are likely to have a sugar daddies, a name. Because it's not just about money. It's about somebody who's going to give me things and show me love. And that person should have been a father. Now, many times we are looking at these. We're looking at the victims of our omissions. But that's not the tone I want to take today. The tone I want to take is, this is how necessary we are. We no longer can stay away and cop out. We can't bail out of this situation. We can't do it. We can't do it. Yinindaba, because it shows that when we do it, the prospects of getting the society on a better footing is very bleak. That's where I wanted us to start. If nothing at all, I raise this thing so that we can look at this and say, we are needed. We are. We are necessary. We are critical. That's the message that men need to hear. Many times we've heard messages which men are dogs, you know. There are men who are dogs, but not all men are dogs. Unfortunately, people who need most of the help don't come seeking for help. And I'm sure that all of you that have come here, you're doing your best in your own different corners. But this is a message that we need to be engaging with where we are. Yabona nangabe unomntwana ngaphandle waba nomntwana ngaphandle. And then you decided not to marry umama wakhe. You might as well know what you are exposing the child to. It might not be today, but 10 years down the line, chickens will come home to roost. If you don't take responsibility now, in future, you'll have to. Let me tell you of a story I normally tell young people. When I was doing standard 2, that was 1968, the lady teacher, you know, when you had gotten, because it was, now a teacher at the time, a teacher was teaching all the subjects. You remember that? All the subjects. And then you get some of what she was teaching wrong. You know what she would do? She would not make you do ama-verbeterings, corrections immediately. No. Break. Are those who didn't get these sums right? Take out your books and do your corrections. And you know, at the time you wanted to be playing, and then she tells you, you've got to do your corrections. Now, this is what I normally think about this. When we don't take responsibilities now, during the time when we should have been relaxing, we will be doing our corrections. You know? We have to stand up and do something about it. But look, we have to come to a common understanding first. We must come to a common understanding that we are necessary and we are needed. We are necessary and we are needed. We have to choose our own label. We understand when an angry woman would call all men a trash. We cannot, therefore, think a statement of anger and frustration describes and defines us, because it is not. But we need to stand up, begin to discuss. I don't know how many fora we could be opening and begin to discuss things that matter very much to us, because we have what it takes. It tells of the power we have. When we relinquish the power of being fathers, the privilege of being fathers, this is generally what this report is saying we are exposing our children to. But I just want to go a little bit further, and then we can, the shoulders bend. The prison gender statistics. In April, the prison population in South Africa was 154,437. That was the prison population. Of this, in 2019, in March, there was 2.9% females of this. Not much would have changed in 2020 maybe at this time. It might have changed a little bit, but it was 2.9%. 2.9% of 154, 437 is about 4,015. In other words, of all the prison population, only 4,015 are females. Now, it tells us of the number of men that are not at home. Right. It tells us of a number of men that are not, some 150,000. And almost every man ohlangana naye ejele unomntwana. Almost everyone unomntwana. And now these children are for a particular time period fatherless. There is an increase in the risk. Esibonile, we slide 1. You understand that? There's that increase. In other words, the kind of life that we live increases the risk of our children following in our footsteps. Now, there is a tendency yokuthi if ubaba ubesejele nabantwana bayalandela nini. There was time when bekhona lo mama nomntanakhe ejele. And I said to this woman, khona la ngake ngaya khona la hlala khona ngifuna ukuyobona ukuthi why abuya ejele kaningi kangaka. Ngayobheka ngithi yane. Later on bekanomntanakhe ejele. And iyenzeka kaningi. Here's a story I normally tell. At lesikhathi inkalankala ebona ilwane zisakhuluma. But a baby crab, its mother said, "Why do you walk like this? Why didn't you walk straight?" And the baby crab said, "Wow." Said, "No, walk straight like other animals, just walk straight." And why do you walk like this all the time? Why do you walk like that? And finally, this baby said, "Show me." And the mother crab started walking and said, "No, that's exactly what I'm doing. That's exactly what I'm doing." Now, there are possibilities that your children will follow you. There are great possibilities that your children, that your sons will do the things you're doing. Chances are very great. I used to ask Abafana a reformatory, I said, "Do you want your children to come where you are right now?" And they would say, no. I said, "But you see, I don't know how life operates. But the possibility is your children will do what you are doing. They're likely to do what you are doing. And now your family line will keep on doing what you did." Abantu abakhuluma ngabathi umkhulu wakhe wayeso. Nomkhulu wamkhulu wakhe wayeso. Nobabakhe wayeso. Naye uso. Uzayofuna imbuzi, ufuna ukuyihlaba. Uyihlabela lo mntwana ukuthi into yabona imbuzi kube ziyakwazi ukukhuluma, yabona zinokudlula la imbuzi kube ziyakwazi ukukhuluma ne. Imbuzi ngabe sithi nasindlula zithi nasindlula thina ngemoto zethu eyithize. Imbuzi zithi abazi ukuthi indaba zakhe zaziwa yimi. You know, yes. Now, yes, in prison, that's what we would ask these guys. Said, now, when you go out, what's the first thing you're going to do? And they say, no, ekhaya fanele bayongeza. Said, bageze in, bangeze ijele. Said, what was that? What does that mean? He said, no, ukuthi ngingaphinde ngibuye ejele. So it will take imbuzi ukuthi wena ungaphinde ubuye ejele. We are breeding those who are like us. If you want to change it, you change it here. You become the change you want to see. They don't learn what we say. They learn what we do. They don't learn what we say. They learn what we do. And if that is the case, and you want to change a trajectory of your family, it starts with you. That's how critical we are. Hey, wish I was in church on Sunday, you know. Now, it's now here's an hypothesis that supposing these 150,000 men have 2 children each, many of them have more. It means by the time they go to prison, they leave about 100,000 children without fathers. In other words, the absence of these men are exposing about 100,000 children to possibilities of negative behavior. You understand that? We no longer can close our eyes and walk away. We must understand the power that we have and the power we're not using. And the tragedy of not using the power and privilege that we have. Oh my goodness. 200,000 children. By the time you come out of prison, you will not be able to discipline those children. They've learned to live without you. And actually, you come back to this home and find that you've got no space. But you know, we can't lose it. You see, now we have a bittersweet message. It's a message that says we are necessary. It's a message that we are critical. But also it's a message that says when we miss the chance, it is not without consequences. Okay, I just want to finish this so that we can begin to deal. Okay, that's it. Now, let's get to divorce statistics. Now, divorce statistics in 2018, I couldn't get the latest. In 2018, divorce statistics were standing at 44% of 100,000, of course. In other words, 44,000 divorces were processed in 2018 out of 100. It's quite a number of people there. $44,000. Supposing each of these families that are divorcing had two children each. It means about 88,000 of these children would not live with their biological parents. Live in one of them, not both. One of them. That's not an ideal situation you want to put your children in. I know there are instances where it cannot be helped. Umeli Uskosana once said to me, but how can these couples be helped? These couples need help. I mean, he processes, I've forgotten, I should have gone to him and found the divorce statistics. You know? And now you're doing this. Now, when you play the game, unaware of the consequences. Now, this tells us of, now, one of the reasons why people are divorcing, they put forward some 3 reasons. They say infidelity, that's money, and sex. lack of commitment. Now, when you treat love and marriage as a game you can get in and out of, you should do that with understanding what it is that you are exposing those children to. We don't say stay despite, but we're saying when you get into that with your open eyes and understanding. Get in there to commit. That's manly. Get in there to commit, to stay, get to be there. Get in there to stay. Because if you don't stay, there are consequences. I understand some people through fault of not of their own. Abantwana bahlala le, abantwana bahlala le, umama uhlala le, ubaba uhlala le. But we want to say that is not the ideal situation. It's not the ideal situation. Seek help if needs be. Talk things out if needs be. You know, I normally say umshado is one of the very unfortunate institutions. I'm no longer teaching, but the department would not accept me without a teaching qualification. In other words, even for something that I would later live, I still had to train as a teacher. For something that was relatively part-time. But for something that is supposed to be permanent, umshado is very, very unfortunate. Who trains for ubasemshadweni? Who goes for preparation ubasemshadweni? Who does that? And then ubona nawufika phakathi ukuthi yini le? You know? Ukuthi yini le? And now and then you decide, I'm getting out. You know, I'm getting out. Because my idea, yomshado, bekuyini, most probably I saw on television. Or umshado, bekuyilento engibone abantu abayithuna bahamba ngemoto enhle. You know, let me tell you, each and every one of us is going through something. Akekho umuntu ongananto he's going through, you know. Ukufisa ukuba njengomunye umuntu kanti awuyifisa inkinga adlula kuzo. You know. We all are going through something. Let's go through. Somebody said, if you're going through hell, keep going. You keep going. If you're going through hell, keep going. Here is, you see, the power of commitment. We see it here. We see the power, the staying power, or the lack of it. Look, with all the education we have, you see, we are the most educated of all our predecessors. Knowledge is available to us than it ever has been to our predecessors. But we can't do one thing they did with ease. Stay together. They stay together. It seems like the more we learn, the more we acquire information, is the more uneducated we become. There's difference between education and information. You know, you can have information and still remain uneducated. You know, that's very possible. Maybe in the words of Malcolm Muggeridge, he says we have educated ourselves into imbecility, something of that nature. So the more you learn, you acquire information, is the more dumb we become. They did this thing without what we have. They did it. I was looking at the divorce statistics in terms of race in South Africa. We can talk about that maybe some other time. We can talk about that some other time. You just do that on your own. Now, we've talked about the hypothesis of family, and given the risk of fatherlessness already profiled, the risk for these children to gravitate to the negative increase exponentially. The absence, when we are absent, the risk becomes higher. What does it tell us? What can we deduce from these foregoing slides? We can deduce that our presence makes all the difference. That's what we can deduce. We can deduce that our presence makes all the difference. We are critical, we are necessary to a healthy fabric of the family. And remember that society is an extended shadow of families. And now there are things, through all these slides, I wanted us to come to that point that says we are necessary. We can't afford to stay on the sidelines. We can't. Why? We are necessary, we are critical. The world can't without us. Families can't without us. We'd like to appreciate all the men that are staying in there as we go into commissions. To appreciate all men that are staying in there. We do a whole lot of counseling. Abanye bathi no sengifuna ukuphuma kulo mshado ngoba angisamfili. We're not angisamfili. I think somebody sold us an idea of romance without telling us about the duty of marriage. You see, the very thing that brought us together cannot keep us together. The eros, erotic love, that level. It does not have what it takes to keep you together. It just does not have it. Its function is to bring you together. And once it has done that, it is done. Inhlitiyo yakho ishayatiki kuyaphela It's like, you expect ukuthi imoto esuke ngogear number 1 should keep to that. No. You've got to change 2, 3, 4, 5. Uhamba uzukhohle ukuthi konje ukhona ugear number 1. Those that stay with gear number 5 now is for the journey. Indlela ivulile. But with us men, we like this feeling of gear number 1 all the time. Talk about 6 months of gear number 1, you want that. And then you'll go to this one so that you can get gear number 1. And then after a year, you go there and say, you get gear number 1, Nobody told us, Fagu 2, Fagu 3, Shincha, Shincha, Sometimes I was noguti yinindaba ulokushela la. Let me tell you something, then I'm down on this one. A certain sociologist, iti abantu besilisa ngoba bakhuliswe omama, zonke idingo zabo bayifuna komama. That's why nakasuka kulo mama wakhe uzoya komunye umama ezo ngathi akakasitholi aye komunye umama, ezo ngathi akasitholi aye komunye umama. Athi kahle hle into ayifunayo ufuna ubudoda bakhe, ufuna something his mother cannot give. There is nobody, there's no woman that can call out a man from a boy. That can only be done by a man. You know. But when there are no men to do just that, you know. Because when you find being, it will be very interesting what your answer is going to be there. It's going to be Nasfiga Lab. When you ultimately find yourself, you find the goodie, wow, I am a man. I am a man. And you find the responsibilities of being a man. You see, without meaning and responsibilities, we begin to drift, Tina. We drift from one thing to another. We'll come there during our commissions. So all these things I've raised so that we can have a discussion. What are we going to do with our relationships that are not working? Are we a generation that does not fix? Each generation la yonke into nayihluphe ekhipha ilahle. Thina sikhule imoto zilungiswa. Ubaba bekakhipha icarburetor. Hayi uzabona uluka ine floater laphakathi uyayilungisa. Sikhule ngesikhathi sezinto ezilungiswayo. Manje imoto yakho nayishayisa la yakhishwa lokulahlwa kuyofakwa kwenje. Are we living esikhathini sama instant kangako? Ngale ndlela yokuthi we want now something that we can only get through process. Now these are discussions that we need to have as men. Do we have power? Yes, we do. And we can use it for other people. Now this is what power means. Power in its positive terms. All right, strength, maybe. But power in its positive terms is when you use it for other people, not on other people. It's when you use it for other people. It makes sense when you use your power for other people. That is why I need my power for my children and my wife and all those that are close to me. I need to use my power for them, not against them. Manje kube Sunday ngabe ngibiza altar call manje yonke lento lena yes. Now during our commissions we are going to discuss things like gender equality, what we understand by that. What's your understanding of gender equality? Equal in a sense but different in roles. Discuss men. What do you understand by women empowerment? What do you understand? What do you think is the aim? Should men fight for gender equality? Do you think men are empowered? You've got to explain that. And if yes, explain. And if no, what form do you think men empowerment should take? Now, we're getting to commissions here. And it's going to be that. And then the quest for masculinity is the quest for masculinity. Masculinity is under question and if not under attack now. Would you be able to define it? Would you be able to define masculinity? What do men generally do to express masculinity? What is peer pressure and to what extent does it influence what men do? As in, we do have brains. It's just that our discussions that we engage in our sizga cool. When I listen to the discussion they engage in, we are born with they have brains. We are born they've got what it takes. It's just that your life, our lives is going to be shaped by the kind of discussions that we have. Let's have this one. Let's have this one. What is femininity? Well, maybe I shouldn't have asked you that. Do you think women are generally weak and men are generally strong? What does it mean to be able to express your feelings? Do you think all feelings should be expressed? Would you say men are generally more aggressive than women? They're one of those that like us to deal with that. All right, we have done that. We have done that. Emotions. If we have time, so which emotions would you associate with women? And which with men? That was very interesting. Why are men afraid, if at all, to show emotions? How can men create a safe space to express their emotions? Not destructive. I remember a certain guy, Ugewati. Men do cry, but they prefer to cry in the rain. Then nobody sees you. You know, you prefer to cry in the rain. And at this point, I would like us to prepare for our commissions. I don't know how we're going to do that. It's going to be quite nice and interesting. And at this point, we've come to the end, Masugo, of this. Let's take 5, 10 minutes. If you want to take tea, you can take tea. Take tea and sit down after, divide everybody according to